Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode in this River Tweed Tributary series. And today I'm on the banks of Manor Water. Now, a big welcome back to all my regular viewers, but also a warm welcome to any new viewers here for the first time. The Manor Valley is situated between the Tweedsmuir Hills and the Glenrath Heights, and it's quite a spectacular and stunning valley, as I'm sure you'll agree when you watch the rest of the programme. The road, which is accessible to the public, goes quite a distance up the valley and is extremely popular with families who are camping or just having days out, hiking or picnicking. The valley is also one of the main mountain bike routes, but not one of the Seven Stains routes. So far, when I've been doing these tributary programs, I've been standing at the estuary of the tributary, but today I chose to deliver this narrative from near to the head of the river. Anyway, it's up on the valley there behind me, and although it's blowing a gale here today, I can tell you now the wind gusts 45 to 50 mile an hour, so I'm standing in the lee of this bridge to deliver this narrative. And although there's a blue sky, as I say, it's quite stormy. But this particular valley and the river is very, very picturesque and well worth including in the series. As I've just said, the source of the river is not far up the valley there behind me. But sadly, at the age of 70, I'm not agile enough to walk up that hill. So I've got as far as I can with the car, and you'll have to rely on the drone footage. Fortunately, the big drone that I bought has a 70mm zoom lens on it, so I can photograph the quite close to the source of the river without actually being there in person. As I just said before, the Manor Valley separates the Tweedsmuir Hills and the Glenrath Heights, and Manor Water begins at the head of this valley, fed by several small burns. The valley is U-shaped, telling us that this was a glacial valley at one time, carved out during the last ice age. Manor Valley is extremely well known for its Iron Age settlements and hill forts, but perhaps less well known are the lead smelting sites. They have been extensively examined by archaeologists and carbon dated to the 9th century, and the oldest recorded in Britain. The farm at the head of the valley is Manorhead Farm. From Manorhead Farm, Manor Water twists its way down the valley, being fed by smaller burns on either side of it. So these huge doors behind me, they were a bit of a puzzle until I spoke to one of the local people living here, and although it looks quite foreboding, maybe it's belonging to the Ministry of Defence or whatever, it isn't. It's quite innocent. You'll remember from episode 1 the pipelines running through the hills in between Tala Reservoir and Fruid Reservoir, and then of course the pipelines go through the hills again down to Edinburgh. Well, this huge doorway in the side of the hill, steel door, is simply an inspection tunnel for some of those water pipes. Just over the hill behind me are 2 more reservoirs. One of them is called Megget Reservoir, and I'm not quite sure where that water is piped to, but this huge set of doors in the side of the hill is for the Scottish Water to go and inspect the pipes. So they must go right into the heart of the hill. Anyway, that's what they are. A mile and 3/4 downstream is the next farm called Langhaugh Farm. In another mile or so down the valley, we come to the next farm called Posso Farm. Exactly in front of it is Wood Hill. There are no less than 5 prehistoric sites on or around the foot of this hill. The settlement sites are either Iron Age or Bronze Age. And the biggest one on the top is known as Macbeth's Castle. The castle written about in Shakespeare's play was based on a castle in Inverness, not this one. The road now bears to the left of Wood Hill, and Manor Water skirts around it to the right, meeting the road again at Glenrath Farm. Half a mile further down the valley is the studio of another artisan craftsperson, this time a master potter by the name of Hannah Jefferson.
This is the March Hare Pottery studio, and it's been a bit of a dream come true for me. So during the pandemic, I had to give up my work in Peebles, but pottery's always been a big passion of mine, and it was a bit of a pipe dream to have somewhere where I could work and also have other people to come and just experience the joy of working with clay. So we'd always known quite a few people down the valley, down the Manor Valley. So we'd had a chat with the family at Hare Manor House, Alistair, who'd just inherited the family home, which is an old hunting lodge. He kindly offered me this space, which is an old Victorian laundry that they built when it was a hunting lodge. He wasn't using it anymore, and it's just been such a wonderful thing to get this space. It's just just felt like the perfect thing. So I do a lot of sculptures and things is what I love to do, inspired by nature, the hares and just native wildlife. And so this has just been, for one, it's a perfect space for inspiration. When I moved in, I saw a little red squirrel climbing up the tree, and just all around there's just it's just a beautiful place. And I try to incorporate all of that in what I'm doing. So even with the hares, I'll maybe try to imprint some leaves or seeds or whatever into the clay as I'm working with the sculptures, and literally have kind of a little piece of this place in whatever I'm working on. It's just also, with that being part of the inspiration for what I'm doing, it's just a lovely place to invite people to just to enjoy that space and the peace and just the therapeutic qualities of being in nature and working with clay, which is a natural material itself. And that's what I tend to do. I work on my own stuff and sell to local galleries, and have people come and book in just to experience working with clay, either just doing something with their hands and with the leaves, or having a go on the wheel, which is great fun too. And those are the ways that I spend my time here.
A massive thank you to Hannah for contributing that to this programme. Only a few hundred metres further down the valley is the first village, called Castle Hill, which hosts some really nice accommodation for anyone wishing to stay here. In amongst the cottages, sitting on a small motte, is Castle Hill Tower. Literally a castle sitting on a hill, and obviously where the village's name was derived from. It was a rectangular tower house built in the late 1400s, but somehow doesn't appear in any records until 1555, belonging to the Lewis of Manor family. The tower guarded a ford crossing over Manor Water. A further half-mile downriver is Glen Turny House, which is now a bed and breakfast accommodation, and a rather grand one too. It is another Scots baronial style mansion built in 1863 at the height of the industrial boom here in Scotland. It was built for David Kidd Esquire from Leighton in Essex, who was a London stationer in Fleet Street. On his move to Scotland, he set up the Inveresk paper mills in Musselburgh on the south-east edge of Edinburgh. His claim to fame is that he was the inventor of the gummed envelope. David Bryce, the renowned Scottish architect, was responsible for overseeing the design of the house. Apparently the mason's bill alone came to £3,465, and that would be the equivalent of £369,000 today. Kidd died in 1874 before the whole estate was completed. The house was occupied by his two sisters, who both remained spinsters, Miss Elizabeth Kidd and Miss Pringle Kidd. The latter of the two died aged 96 in 1902. In 1903, the house was sold for £17,300 to Thomas Inglis, the owner of Bonington Flour Mills in Edinburgh. After that, the house had several owners before the present owners, the Wood family, who bought it in 1998. Continuing down the river and after Castle Hill, the river leaves the roadside and meanders its way into another village called Kirkton Manor. The kirk here is quite interesting, as most of Scotland's churches usually are. The building we see here was built in 1874, but there were several previous buildings on this site before this one. The first of those churches is referred to as the Chapel of Manor in 1186. But a much older church here was a chapel dedicated to Saint Gordiani, a Roman martyr. The bell hanging in the belfry and still in use today bears the inscription "In honor Sancti Gordiani" and then the Roman numerals for 1478, which indicates an older church was here before this one. It is one of the oldest bells in Scotland. The pipe organ was built in 1889 and came from Pencaitland Kirk, just southeast of Edinburgh. It was installed here in 2002. Just behind the kirk are the remains of an old mill built around the late 1700s. Although it's quite gloomy inside with little light, you can see the mill still has its machinery and its water wheel on the side of the building. The mechanics inside suggest that this was a flour mill and obviously not a woolen mill. Leaving the river briefly, I wanted to include Barnes Tower in this programme. It lies half a mile northwest of Kirkton Manor and was built in the late 1500s during the height of the River period of the border's history. King James V of Scotland ordered every nobleman with land worth over £100, that would be just over 24 million today, to build a square peel tower. It had to be 30 feet square and able to hold cattle in the vault below with the family living above. This was the design of all peel towers, both north and south of the border, as I've described many times in previous programmes. The tower belonged to William Burnet, the fourth Laird of Barnes, and Margaret Stewart, a relation of the Traquair Stewarts. Their initials are carved into one of the lintels of the upper floor windows. The date of 1488 is carved above the door, but that relates to when the Burnetts acquired the lands here, not when the tower was built. The Burnetts were frequently in debt over the centuries for one reason or another, and they remortgaged the property several times. By 1773 they had left the tower and built a mansion house in the grounds and used the tower for servants' quarters. From Kirkton Manor, the river now only has a short distance to travel before it meets the Tweed. But before it does so, it passes under an extremely picturesque stone-arched bridge. Then a short stretch takes it down to meet the Tweed, where it ends its 9-mile journey. Well folks, that's all for this particular programme. I hope you've enjoyed it, and of course if you have, then please give it a like. Subscribe if you haven't already done that. And as I'm saying at the end of all of these programmes now, please either pass on the link to this particular programme to someone else in the family or a friend, or get them to subscribe, because I need your support and help in helping to promote the channel. The other thing that people maybe are not doing is, when you're looking for my videos, maybe it's just coming up as a suggestion in YouTube, whereas if you go to the circular icon where you see my image, if you click on that, it actually takes you to the channel itself, and therefore you can see all of the videos on the channel, whatever you take. There's over 150 up there at the moment, and of course I'm adding to that all the time. So not only maybe passing those details on to friends and family, but encourage them to click on that icon which takes them to the channel, and then you have access to all the videos, as I've just said. Of course, as always, I appeal to you to, if you can, spare some cash, make a donation to the channel, because obviously there are costs to making all of these programs. But as I've been saying in all of these programs, the best way you can help is to watch the video right through to the very end, till the last title's gone up at the end of the title sequence and the last bar of music has faded away, because it's only then that YouTube record this as a view. So most people, of course, even me included, if I've been watching a movie on Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever, as soon as the end credits start going up, that's when you switch off or go make a cup of tea. But by all means, go make a cup of tea, but can you just let it roll till the very end, and then that at least counts as a view on my channel, and as I say, that helps as well. So with that all being said, from the banks of Manor Water here, I'll say farewell, the very best of health as always, and I'll see you all extremely soon in the next episode. Bye bye for now.